Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and I have my wonderful grandmother. I call her Nanny, so I'll refer to her as Nanny throughout the entire show. But she is going to give you guys some advice throughout her 83 plus years on this earth and everything in between. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, welcome to episode number 23. Believe it or not, if you are watching on video, you can see that I have my lovely Nanny here with me on the show. How you doing, Nanny?
I'm doing great.
Good? You excited about the show?
Very excited. I feel like a movie star.
You are in my book. So, guys, Nanny has been probably, arguably, one of the most influential people in my world. So, I am going to introduce her to you all as a part one today, and then your birthday's in August, which we've got a funny story about your birth certificate. We'll have to share that one later on. But her quote unquote birthday is in August, and so we'll have her back for part two closer to her birthday. But for now, Nanny, I want you to be able to briefly tell some people on the show. So a lot of our listeners, as I told you, are from around the country. We've got a few from outside of the states as well. But what's your background like? Just a little bit about your upbringing, your early years, where you grew up, and all that jazz.
Well, people, believe it or not, I live on the same street I was born on. I wouldn't change it for nothing. I can remember every family that lived on there when I was a child. But I also could remember the village concept was in place then. Not that I really liked it then, because I used to get a whipping at one end of the street, another one middle away, and another one at the end of the street. And nobody on the street had a telephone and trying to figure out they knew what I was doing.
Telepathic vibes.
But I loved it. I loved it. I love it.
So with that being said, so same street you were born on, which is wild to think about. But I know there were some opportunities for you where, so your parents split up, right?
Mhm.
So when how old were you when that
They
happened?
split up when I was 4 years old.
Okay. And your mom lived up in Michigan, right?
My mom moved to Michigan in 1950. My dad moved to Chicago immediately.
So who raised you here?
I was raised by I begged them to let me stay here and go to school with my classmates and stay with my grandparents. Well, when I was 8, my granddad decided to migrate to Patterson, New Jersey. So that left me with grandmama.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you what it did to me. Have I ever told you what it did to me?
You have?
Well, I'm going to tell you again. It made me into a sweet con artist. Yes, I rode the bus, people, young people, all of you younger than I am. I rode the bus at 10 years old by myself. This was during the sit-in demonstration and during segregation. Was I afraid? No. I remember the white lady my grandmother worked for took me to Atlanta and put me on the bus. The driver took me by the hand in my little suitcase and sat me directly behind him. I looked at the back of that white man's head, and you know what I thought?
What's that?
I'm going to be sitting right here the next 15 or 20 years. I'm not moving. And I didn't. But I didn't have to protest. A smile goes a long way. Every time a lady got on the bus, I would jump up real quick and look at her and say, "And ma'am, how you doing this morning?" And they look at me like, okay, all shocked, and they head back to their seat. I give them 5 minutes. It didn't take that long. But they came back to bring me some cookies, some candies, or a sandwich or something.
You said how old were you when you began riding the bus by yourself?
10. 10. I was going to Detroit.
So from Georgia to Detroit
Amen.
and back.
Hmm.
No problems. How many years did you do that? Make that trip?
I did that up until I was 19.
Wow.
Hmm. I sure did.
Okay.
I saw a lot.
So Eatonton, Georgia, born and raised, still here. Knock on the door of 84, right?
That's
Um,
right.
a lot has obviously changed since then. Since your early years on, we'll talk about that here in just a second. But staying with your childhood a little bit, and I know you've got a lot of memories of your childhood. You've got the memory of an elephant. I always say because you remember so much
I'll get you after this show.
from so long. You do, but give it our audience one of your favorite childhood memories, because I mean obviously you grew up in a time and a day and age that was totally different than it is now,
Very different, very
right?
different. But I didn't know it was different. I mean, I would go to visit my mother and go to visit my daddy when he lived in Illinois, but I was always in a hurry to get back home. I was so familiar with home.
Hmm.
But it's just amazing some of the things I can remember. I can remember our old church, St. John AME Church, the old church.
Yeah.
I can remember that on my street, back when I was a child. Now think about how old I am. We had two white families living on it. All us kids played together. We ate together. We couldn't go to school together. We couldn't understand it. We used to be so sad when we had to split up and one go one direction to school and the other one go another direction. But over the years, you learn. You learn. But
Mhm.
I wouldn't give anything for those times. Those are my basics. That's the way I feel about it. That was the foundation for my life,
Right.
and I enjoyed every bit of it. And plus, we had some good cooks on that street too.
So in addition to the whoopings that came throughout, you still had some good home cooking, right?
Oh,
Had
we
grew
had
up
some
with
good
some
home
great
cooking.
neighbors, right?
Yes, good neighbors. Oh gosh, you want me to name some of those neighbors?
Go ahead.
Oh, you had Mr. Robert Lee Reed. He's passed on now. The late Robert Lee Reed. He was the first black in Putnam County to own his own mechanic shop.
Okay.
He had a wife named Miss Pauline, and there was one house between his shop and our house. And I would go down there on Saturday morning. Well, I go in the evening anyway, and I love to hear him talk. He talked very, very loud. You always knew what he was saying because he was very loud, just like he was on the microphone.
Sure.
I mean, it was great. And then across the street, you had Joe Lee living across the street, and we would talk to him all the time. And you had Miss Bessie. Oh gosh, we had Miss Bessie living over there on the corner across the old St. John Church. They didn't have any children. Her and Mr. Oscar Mathis, and he worked for the Hearns, and he could not drive anything except a tractor. And he had a little red like parasol on top of his tractor to keep the
Mhm.
sun off him. And he would come back and forth down the road, and she always had candy, so she always gave us plenty of candy. We were so proud of Miss Bessie, we didn't know what the woman do. Coming up that street, the lady we call Miss Kit. She wasn't named Miss Kit, we call her Miss Kit, and her daughter was named Maddie Adams. I remember when Maddie Adams, we call it Maddie Tom. We call her Tom. And I remember when her husband came from the Navy.
Mhm.
We were standing out there beside the road and watching him. He come down the street and he had this duffel bag over his shoulder, and everybody was waving him for dear life. And then across the street from there, um you had Miss Bessie, not Bessie, Miss Molly Pearson. You had Miss Molly Pearson. That was Robert Lee Reed's grandmother, and she was a midwife.
Okay.
She was a midwife, and one leg was a little bit shorter than the other one, so she kind of had a limp. But she had a perfect memory. She had a perfect memory. And we lived behind Miss Tommy Wells. Miss Wells had a grandson. I didn't know what his real name was. We called him Mister. We found out later on he was named Richard.
Wow.
But his mother lived in Toledo, and so she came down and got him years later. And so we would talk to Miss Tommy all the time, and Miss Tommy couldn't hear him. And my grandmother, oh gosh, my grandmother thought it was horrible. She would come out and say, "Hey Dale, what did you say down there?" And my grandma said, "I didn't say nothing, Tommy." And she said, she just knows I don't know what. She's always wanting to know what somebody was saying. I believe she can really hear.
Yeah.
We had a ball. And then down below there was Miss Sophie. Miss Sophie lived in a little house down there, and she had a daughter that lived in Millersville. I won't ever forget that. But oh gosh, we had some great times.
Great times. And so, like, I mean, kids these days, fun. They define fun in different ways. But what did fun look like for you and the kids on your street back then?
Well, most of the little girls in that street didn't play with the boys, and I was an exception. I played with them.
Okay.
I played with the boys, and I got in trouble all the time. I can remember falling out the chinaberry tree because one of the neighbors had told me don't climb that chinaberry tree because the limbs will break off in a hurry. But I climbed it up and called myself going to do like a somersault on it, and bam, I fell down on my head. Well,
And you still
grandma,
remember everything to this day.
grandmama
So you're
came
good.
out the door and tore my back end up.
I love it. So obviously, our audience at this point, I'm sure they can get the hint that you're an amazing storyteller. So fast forward to today, or I guess fast forward to 17 years ago, you began telling stories at the Uncle Remus Museum, which is really a staple in our community here in Eatonton,
Yes,
Georgia.
yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that and just the opportunities that you get there to serve people, not just in these states, but from around the world.
Well, young people remember these stories are our history. They are African folk tales. But handed down through all those generations and never been written until this young man wrote them. And so we have to remember that. But on my street,
When you say this young man, who are you talking about?
George John Harris.
Okay.
I call everybody young man. And then a young lady. Well, you got to remember that on my street, every house had a storyteller when I was a child. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. I said, I want to be a storyteller. I'm going to tell those stories. Because these old ladies would come in from work in the evening, they the big white aprons on, and they would go in and fire out that wood stove and put on supper. Now remember, we're in the South. It's not breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's breakfast, dinner, and supper. Understand? It's supper. We're in the South.
Yes, ma'am.
And they would put supper on. They'd come and sit on the porch and start to tell a story. And I was very loud. I would yell very loud. Hey, everybody, they telling one of them damn Uncle Remus stories. And all those kids would come and sit down to listen. And that's what I always wanted to do. But I got turned around for 34 years. You know what I did?
What's that?
I went to work when my fifth child was 4 years old. I went to work at the hospital. And I got 34 years experience as a medical secretary. But I said somewhere along the line, I'm going to tell stories. So I'm telling stories now, and I just love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love working at the hospital too. But I love telling stories. And you wouldn't believe the people I meet. Because most people don't realize those stories are printed in 27 different languages.
Mm.
And I say, I guess what really hurts my feelings is that people from other countries know about these stories. So we got to start teaching to our children so they'll know the story too. This is history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now you know how I feel about history.
It's a huge deal. So give us a plug then. So like I said, we've got people from all around the country who listen to the show.
That's right.
Give them a reason to come to Eatonton, Georgia.
Come to Eatonton because I can tell you several reasons to come. It's a lot of history, We got some good restaurants, we got some good shops and everything, and we got the Uncle Remus Museum. It's open 7 days a week. It's even open on Sundays from 1 to 5. But now, it's open from 10 to 5. The rest of the days I'm off for lunch from 12 to 1. And I'm there, your loud talker, on Thursdays and Fridays, okay? On Thursdays and Fridays, I'm there. And then I got another little tip for you too.
Okay.
When you get there, you're going to see statues out there in the front lawn of the rabbit, the bear, the fox, and everything. But I want you to go up to our courthouse, that big, beautiful, stately looking courthouse that we got on the 441 side. Go over there and look, and you have got a bench with a life-size statue of Uncle Remus on it. Now, you need to get nosy, like me. I'm never inquisitive. I'm nosy. So I you turn around real quick and look, and you got a metal box over there on the pole. You push the button, you hear me telling one of Grandma's stories.
We'll hear your voice.
With my voice.
Right?
With my voice.
So we've got, and again, this show is, it's airing first week of May, and a month from now, we have our annual Dairy Festival.
Amen.
Right? What goes on during the Dairy Festival?
Oh gosh, you got to come, but you got to get here a few minutes before 10 o'clock because the parade starts at 10 on the dot.
Okay.
Parade is long, 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 and you have vendors all over. I mean, these craftsmen who comes in, we got some all over. And last year we had one street that was completely blocked off with nothing but food, 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 food. Some of the best barbecue and barbecue you taste yet. And I'm gonna do a plug for myself.
Okay.
I will be from 1 o'clock to 1:30. I'll be on the courthouse square telling Uncle Remus stories.
Wow.
So come and hear me.
And this is the first Saturday in June.
Always the first Saturday in June.
That we'll have this. So all day long affair, and it starts. We also have that early that morning, right? We do a race.
A fun run.
We do a fun run.
Yes.
It's a 1 mile run for little kids and anybody who may want to be a part of that.
That's right.
And then we also have a 10K.
That's right.
That is known to be one of the toughest 10Ks in the country. So for you runners out there, and athletes, if you want to be challenged with the 10K during the Dairy Festival, come on to Eatonton, Georgia, first Saturday in June. So before we take a quick break, the 20s. So your 20s rather. You were in your 20s in the 1960s, right?
Yes.
So what was life like then, and how has it changed to today in 2024?
Well, I guess I gotta give a plug to my little town because it seems like we were so small at those days that everybody knew each other.
Hmm.
Everybody knew each other, and it's kind of like that now. It's kind of like that now. We're not that small anymore though, but people looked out for each other. Now I got married very early. I got married at 19, not quite 20. I'm still very tired, young ladies. Why am I so tired? Because my first 5 kids were born one every year for 5 years. Then 9 years later, here come number six. What do I call them? I call them the chosen six. I wouldn't trade them in for anything.
Mm, love it.
The chosen six.
Love it. So when you say give a plug to the city of Eatonton, because obviously Eatonton's grown
It's grown.
so
It's
much,
grown.
and I mean I feel like you know every inch of this city,
I do.
you know,
I do.
being here. But what would you say is different maybe about the way that not just Eatonton, but the way that you see the areas around us have operated a little bit.
The areas around us are operating. We still like to go to other towns and everything, but I guess what I really plug is I plug us because we got darn good school systems.
Mm,
We got good school systems, and law enforcement is absolutely out of this world. They're great. They work together. The county and city police department, they work close together, very close together, and it's just out of this world the way it is. Um, Only problem I have is that I cook cupcakes for everybody.
I don't think that's really much of a problem. I mean, everybody who's come in contact with him has always been blessed, right?
I cook cupcakes for everybody.
Nanny used to make, guys, which was incredible, and she did it even from my little brother. But my years of growing up through recreation baseball, and Nanny would make cupcakes not only for my teammates and I, but for the opponents as well. And she did this through my high school years as well. I remember playing, Lamar County. They,
Don't mention Lamar.
we always had some battles with them, the Trojans, and so she would make cupcakes for all the opponents as well, and they'd want to stay in our region just so they'd come back to Putnam County because they knew they were getting cupcakes from Nanny.
But
But
don't mention Lamar County because you graduated. And then you graduated the next year I went back to take cupcakes. And so
yep.
the coach walked to me and said, I thought he graduated. I say, he did. I brought y'all cupcakes. He said, oh, oh, oh.
I love it. I love it. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, Nanny's gonna give us a few life lessons and some other tidbits as well that goes through her wonderful brain. So we'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. So hopefully you've had some good nuggets here from Nanny already. I think she's going to add some more value to your life. So thank you so much, as always, guys, for tuning into the show. Just incredibly grateful for everybody who plugs in, and particularly grateful for this one specifically because, like I said, Nanny is really near and dear to me. And any opportunity that I can have her to share advice on the show, don't do that. Don't do that. Have her on the show, though, to share her love and advice with you guys. Is also a treat for me. So, with that being said, Nanny, valuable life lessons. So I know that you're chock full of them. There's been many generations that have come after you. There will be many generations to come. I'm sure who will find this show on YouTube at some point in the future. So what do you have? Valuable life lessons for future generations.
My life lessons I would like for everybody to remember is that my grandmother that raised me, she only had a third grade education, but she
Hmm.
had a PhD in common sense. She taught me as a child that I couldn't hate anybody. I couldn't hate anybody because of slavery. I said, why, Grandma? She said, because nobody around had anything to do with it. Now that's common sense.
Right.
Because we got too much division. We got too much division. I mean, we're divided like mad. I mean, I didn't see all the division when I was a child growing up. I really didn't see it. And this was during segregation. I didn't see that division, but I'm sure it was there. But Grandma taught me something else. So I want y'all, the young people, to remember this. She always taught me, she says, pull them shoulders up, throw that head back, and you step like I don't know what. She says, and that's just it. She says, so I tell people, young people all the time, we got to know history. Know history, because if you don't know history, it can't be repeated.
Sure.
And in other words, you can't measure your progress if you erase the past. You need to know where you started out from to see how far you come and know how blessed you are. I'm truly blessed because I meet so many sweet people all the time. And they're so intelligent. I hope some of them rub off on me. I don't know what it has or not, but I just keep wishing some of it will rub off on me. And I meet people all over. Because, like I say, in there, well, Grandma also taught me to speak to everybody. And so, when I walk in the grocery store, I walk in the drugstore anywhere, I walk in and I say, hey, young lady, how you doing? Do I know them? Half the time I don't, but I speak to them. Young man, how you doing? And then I go zooming around the grocery store with my little buggy pushing it, and I meet them again. They say, now you have a great day, young lady. And I say, thank you, thank you. But it goes a long way. It goes a long way.
So, and on that same vein, where you talk about speaking to people and connecting,
Hmm.
what's the value in that? I mean, I know maybe stating the obvious, but what's the value in connecting with people and building those relationships?
You learn from people. And people learn from you. You always learn something from somebody. I mean, it's amazing what all you can learn just by talking to somebody.
Sure.
Of course, there's some things I get accused of I didn't do. For instance, when I went to the grocery store yesterday, I got out and walked in the grocery store. I said, "Well, if I went to church, and there was a man's truck parked out front, and somebody had backed into it or hit it some way, and I mean, it was smashed in the back. It was so bad that his driver's side door wasn't even closed, but he was driving it. And I walked in the store, and the first thing one of the tellers, one of the cashiers looked at me and said, Miss George, did you back into that man's truck? And I said, no, I'm innocent because I've had a couple little accidents where I backed into somebody,
Sure.
but I made sure I went, when whatever it was when I happened, I always went to place and said, announce this please that somebody's car has been hit out front. I did it. So somebody coming. Every time it was a car that was in worse shape than mine, and the person said, "Don't worry about it, Miss Georgia. Don't worry about it. You got the hit more damage to your car than you did to mine." So,
That's too funny.
but my husband don't take it that lightly.
No, I
He
imagine
don't take it that lightly.
Pop does not take that lightly for sure. So speaking of Pop, okay, segue into the, like as you mentioned earlier on the show, the chosen six,
Mhm.
and by the way, that sixth kid is my mom,
Amen.
and so they all grew up playing sports in some capacity, right? I know there's got to be a ton of memories in the bank there on that
Oh
front. So
gosh,
so talk to that a
it's
little bit.
so much memories. First, you got to remember out of the six, they're so close together. Three were in military.
Okay.
So for several years, I had three in military at the same time.
So what branches were they serving in?
I hate to tell you, but two is in Navy, one is Marine, and they still fighting.
Oh my goodness.
That's right, they're still fighting. Now, my middle daughter, that's next to your mother, 9 years different, she was in Navy. She stayed in there 5 years. She never learned to swim and still can.
Crazy. I remember hearing that story for the first time. I'm like, you got to be joking.
No, she still can't swim.
Yep.
But now sports, oh gosh. Oh, I can still remember her too. That's Beverly. I can remember her playing basketball. She did everything. It had to be perfect. Her nails had to be done. Her tennis shoes were absolutely white as I don't know what. They had to be clean as I don't know what. She was just perfect. Hair had to be in place and everything. And we were at a basketball game one night at that school. And she came down that court carrying the ball, just as slow as it could be. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, speed up, speed up, speed up. That's what I want to say. And all of a sudden, this girl came out of nowhere and swiped at the ball and hit her on the finger. I think it kind of broke one of those nails or something. And she stopped and looked at it, and the entire gym went quiet. I won't ever forget that.
Oh my goodness. So okay, so that's Auntie Beverly. So let's talk about the girls then. So we got Auntie Beverly, the middle daughter, oldest daughter, Auntie Carol.
Auntie Carol played basketball all the way through high school. When she went to Mercer, she graduated from high school in 1979. She went to Mercer, and she played basketball with Mercer
Hmm.
all 4 of those years. And then the day she graduated, she gave me a shocker. She took one look at me and she said, "You know, I think I go to nursing school." And I put my hand on my hips like Grandma did, and I said, "Why in the daylight didn't you go 4 years ago?" But she went.
Yeah.
She went to nursing school.
And she's been serving at Macon
Yes.
since,
Yes.
really, right?
Ever since. And she's still working there.
Yeah.
Still working there.
Awesome.
Now, our oldest son, he retired. He retired. He worked at Georgia Power for years. So he retired last year. He said, "Mama, maybe you need to retire." And I said, "Forget it. I'm not retiring."
So that's Junior,
hmm
Pops Junior, and then we got Uncle Tony and Uncle Daryl. So all the boys played football, right?
They played football. Darryl and Tony played together.
Yeah.
I mean, oh God, those two together. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the things they did.
Now, what didn't they have a nickname in football? I don't remember. I remember some of the stories you tell
Let me
me.
tell you what they do. You know how you bring the banner out? You bring the banner out with your team.
Yep.
And they would come carrying the banner. They would come down through there, and whoever was come carrying the banner, they would come along and trip them up. It was on their team, and the person would fall right into the banner. They did it every time.
Oh my Lord! All over the place.
And one night, I was sitting at the ball game, and the lady sitting next to me was my best friend. The one they tripped up was her son.
Oh my goodness. So Uncle Junior, so he was obviously his oldest, and
he played football. Let me tell you that.
Mhm.
He played football for 1 year, and he told his dad afterward, he said, "Okay, I played football. I'm finished. I didn't get killed. I didn't get hurt. I did everything a man wants a son to do is play football. I did it 1 year. I'm finished."
So he was done.
That was it.
He served it.
No more.
So what about Mom? What was Mom's sports claim to fame?
Mom loved to run cross country. She loved to run cross country, and she's pretty good on it too.
Yeah,
She's pretty good on it.
She was. I followed after her footsteps in the cross country world. So that's funny. So sports wise, I mean, it's always been part of our family, and
But let me tell you something, young man.
Okay.
I was not one of those kind of mothers. I love my children, not one of those kind of mothers that took anything. So each child had to have a job when they were in high school.
Okay.
Now there was one, I won't call his name, that got a job, he worked at the bank in the morning before he went to school. He cleaned the bank up.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That was his gig before he would go to school.
He got the scare of his life when the Brinks truck came in one morning. And he was mopping the floor, and he turned around and looked, and there were those two men standing there with this big bag of money, and each one of them had their hand on their gun.
Yep. Yep. I do remember that story. So you got 6 kids.
Mm-hmm.
How many grandchildren?
15.
And then how many greats?
18.
Wow.
And 2 great-greats.
2 great-greats. Mm-hmm. What a blessing. So
it's a blessing. Populating the earth.
Yep, that's it. That's how it should go, right? Good people should repopulate and produce more good people, right? So, with that being said, before we take another break here, what did you do for sport when you were in high school?
Oh, I was a majorette. Oh gosh, I was a high-stepping majorette.
So I don't think the large majority of our audience doesn't know what a majorette is.
Oh gosh, you had a drum major.
Mm-hmm.
You have a drum major and you have a head majorette. And the head majorette was normally a taller person. And well, I'm not short. I'm just under tall.
And I think okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
And I remember our band director told us, he said, "Now when you get out there, I want you to put those shoulders up, throw that head back, and I want you to prance like young ponies." Now we did it. And we were so proud of it because 1957, our band led the Dairy Festival. And this was during segregation.
Wow. This was your junior year?
That's right.
High school. Mm-hmm. Man, that's crazy. So do we have an equivalency to majorettes now? I guess that the flag girls?
Probably the flag girls. They're real good, too. They're good.
They are.
Colorful, yes.
Very nice. Okay. Good deal. So, and that was your main sport that you carried, and you were pretty dang good at it, obviously. So
I couldn't play basketball because the first time I got out of the court to play basketball, somebody threw the ball and somebody in the audience said, so I turned around and looked at the ball, hit me in the nose. So
how did that? You were like, I'm done.
I quit.
I got you. Well, on that note, we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna be right back to wrap up the show with a few more nuggets from Nanny. We'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, welcome back to the show one last time. Hope you guys have been enjoying this show thus far. I have. How have you been? You good?
I'm doing great.
All right, good deal. So let's get into it. So, next question here, and I think it's a very important question, especially for our audience. Remembering that this is mostly a sports and a softball baseball podcast, and so a lot of our audience is surrounded around the diamond, whether it be parents, coaches, players, and so from your perspective as a mother, a grandmother, a great grandmother, a great great grandmother, just a staple of a community that values sports as well. For those young people that are trying to go to college and they're using sports as their means to do so, what would be your additional advice for them?
I think first you should have another incentive. I think you should. First, you need to keep your grades up. And all the time, keep those grades up. In case this path that you want to go doesn't work out, you have something else. Have another alternative.
Sure.
Always remember that.
Sure. And the value of having something to fall back on, I think, is important, right? Because at the end of the day,
Yes.
you think about the percentage of us who, athletes wise, go on to play collegiately. That's a very small number.
That's right.
And
That's
then
right.
those who leave college and go maybe play pro, that's also a very small
That's
number.
right. That's right.
And but I mean, we just had a young man though that grew up partially in Eatonton. In his early childhood, he was a neighbor of yours
A distant relative too.
and a distant relative, right? Javon Bullard
That's right.
played safety at Georgia, and just last week, was drafted by the Green Bay Packers, second round, I think 58th pick of the draft, right? And man, incredibly proud of him. Happy for his family,
Proud of
or our family, and I think that he's going to go on and do great things there in Green Bay.
I think it will too.
And I think he's got a great head on his shoulders. Obviously, a huge support system from everybody in the community. So Eatonton and Millersville, he made us all proud.
Most certainly did.
No doubt, right?
He did.
However, he is a very small. He's a 1 in a million, right? A small percentage of that, and so, but even him, he has something to fall back on now because he's gone to college and he's gotten his studies done and he's done what he's supposed to do in the classroom.
That's right.
To give himself this opportunity, right? So taking that a next step further, when in terms of picking something, that there's so many ball players that I know of that I've gotten an opportunity to connect with. They're like, well, I don't really know what I should do, right? What would be advice for those who may be a little uncertain about what to get into, just that may not know what path to take?
Everybody needs someone to talk to. Everybody needs somebody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember when you were coming along, oh gosh, you had the whole town to talk to.
True.
You always need somebody to talk to, somebody for advice. Always. And because even when I came along, I had people to give me advice. And I say, even in school, I had teachers to give me advice, principals to give me advice.
Sure.
And I was not the smartest person around. I was not the easiest person I couldn't stop talking. But but you always need to have someone. And then I tell young people all the time, what I tell the parents, I say you got to remember something now. I say you can't be best of friends. Which come I say I'm not best of friends with my children.
Right.
I've got seniority. I'm the mother.
Right.
Respect is earned, and when you earn it, you demand it. And I put my hand on my hip and I demand it. And that's just it. Grandma used to do it too.
Amen.
That's the way you do it. But you always need somebody. There's always somebody out there you can reach for and talk to.
Right.
Always, always.
And I think that's huge because, and like you said, I mean, I was very fortunate to have the whole town, right?
You did.
And largely because of just your relationship with the town and my mom's relationship with the town, and just the way that our community has been built, right? And it can be a very tight knit scenario right there. But some people out there who maybe they may find themselves lost in a big city, right, where they don't know who to reach out to on that front. And but like I said, it's important to have a support system.
That's right. That's right.
You know, I think at the end of the day, for those who may be listening and don't know who to reach out to, you know, one, you can always lean on God. And
Amen.
we've always been, our family's always been a believer in that. And so if you don't know where to start, then that's a perfect place to start.
Perfect place.
And I think if you don't know how to lean on Him, then talking to those people in your community to connect that way, to do that would be my
Connect
advice.
yourself with a church. Connect yourself with a church, and that's it. I belong to the church right down my street. Have I always been a member? I've only been a member a couple of years there. That's not the church where I was.
Hmm.
I was at the family church, and when it closed, I just went right down the street. Came back to town and went down the street. I've been going there since I'm 8 years old anyway. But my church only had service twice a month.
Right.
That church had service every Sunday. So I was there and I enjoyed the daylight side of it.
Yeah.
Only church I've seen yet that you can sit there and get the word, laugh during service because somebody said something funny, which comes on, but you learn something. You leave out there still with a big smile on your face. I always say that.
And I think that's huge because I mean, I know when I go to church service, I'm looking to, how can I apply today's message to my life,
That's right.
right? And I think that's good. So, as we kind of begin to wrap up the show, anything under the sun that you want to share off the top of the dome? I know I've got some stories that you could share about me, and I know we'll kind of have a part two to this one. But anything under the sun that you want to share?
Well, young people out there, I'm not a professional anything, but if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. I am available.
And I've always thought about this from just a grand scheme of life. And as a 28-year-old guy, I know that my time of serving younger generation that's coming up right now, and watching you serve for all of my life, nothing beats availability.
That's right.
Right? When
That's
you make yourself available to other people, and you don't just say it but you mean it, and you put action behind that, and sometimes that availability means that you're the one reaching out to them, right? And but I got, because I'll be honest with you, man. I know some of you guys. I know some of our audience is in other countries and other states, obviously. But this lady right here, when she says she's available, there's no doubt about that.
I'm
So
available, even to making cupcakes.
that's right. That's right. And so it's just, our family's blessed to have her in our lives, and I'm blessed to be able to share her with y'all, even just for this, this quick little episode here. But Nanny, so last thing before I share our thought you should know moment, is just a simple question of how have you found ways to find the joys in life, or to find the joys in life even during the tough times?
You know something? I look for. I try not my best not to think negative. I do what Grandma taught me to do. Oh, I didn't tell y'all. Grandma passed away 27 years ago at the age of 110.
Hmm.
I wake up in the morning and I look up and I say two words. She told me to always say that. And I'm very loud. I say, thank you. And then I get greeted. Ask for three things: strength, guidance, and wisdom. And then I take off.
Just go.
I'll go.
And listen, and here's what I love about that you say that you ask for those three things and then you go. And when I think about when we talk about praying and saying our prayers and things like that, we always say amen at the end. And the meaning of that word is to let it be, right?
Let it be.
And so whatever you pray about, you say amen at the end, and you let it be, and you've given it to Him.
That's right.
And you go on.
You have to learn when you can't handle something yourself, hand it back. Oh, I was working in the medical field, and one day something went wrong, and I couldn't handle it. I said, "Oh no, I'm giving it back to you. I could not handle this." And the lady next to me said, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "The man above. I can't handle it."
Yeah.
So when I can't handle it, I hand it back to him.
That's it. That's it. Well, anything else you got? You good?
I'm just enjoying the daylight side of this.
I've
You want me to
loved
do
having you on
another
the
2
show.
hours?
We can do another 2 hours, but we're gonna let them go, and then we'll do another 2 hours. How about that? And then we'll have her back though in August.
Well,
And actually, you know what? Tell us about the. I almost forgot. So your birthday is in August. What's the deal with your birth certificate? Because this was a while. The first time I heard the story as a young kid, I was like, "What in the world?" You know, and it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. But tell us that story real quick before we
you
go.
want me to tell you really? So now,
Go ahead.
see when I was born, there was no hospital. I was born at home, and my mother stayed in labor for a long time. I wasn't. She went in labor like that evening. I wasn't born until the next morning at 4 o'clock, and the midwife was drunk because my granddad was busy giving her cups of alcohol for to give my mother for pain, but apparently she drank it.
Oh my G.
So my grandmama and granddaddy was the one that delivered me. But he was so mad he didn't know what to do, so he chased her out of the house. Grandma said, she told me. And then one day, years and years and years later, uh, a couple of the chosen six were taking me on a cruise. I had never been on a ship before, and they say, "You're gonna have to get your birth certificate." And I say, "You got to be kidding." I got it at home. I said, well, I stopped with some uptown. I stopped at the courthouse to get it. I stopped at the courthouse to get it. And I remember the probate judge said, which one do you want? And I said, what do you mean? She said, you got two. You got one August 15th, 1940, and one September the 15th, 1940. So I've got two birth certificates, young people. That means when I die, I'm going to be here an extra month.
just crazy. And for somebody who is just so well known in this town, and I just feel like that's one of the goofiest stories to have. I mean, it's just wild. I mean, how many people in the world have two birth certificates with two different dates on them? I mean, it's unbelievable. So, anyway, we're gonna wrap up the show, and do you have a thought you should know moment? Anything just random for our audience?
I still have the same thing I tell everybody. Can't measure progress, you erase the past.
Amen to that. And I think I think I continue to share this on the show, but I feel like I need to share it again because it's been heavy on me recently. But you know, guys, the Jackie Robinson quote that I've used a lot, and it's been my email tag a bunch, and it just simply says, the the life of a man is not important except in the impact it has on somebody else.
Oh, I agree
Right.
to that.
And I feel like if we go
Yes.
through life, right, and we are living to serve others, you'll get what you need.
You will.
God,
You
the
will.
universe will provide for you.
That's right.
But if you'll just give, if you'll be a giver, and you've been that for me, you've been that for our entire family, you've been that for so many people,
I love it.
not just in
I love
Eatonton, but you touch people around the world, right?
love
That you won't even understand. Right.
I got birthday cards to prove it.
Yep, that's right. You do. So, anyway, guys, we're gonna wrap the show. Nan, thank you so much
Oh, I
for
loved
coming.
it. I loved it.
I've
loved
appreciated
it.
you being on the show. So, guys, we're gonna wrap this up like we always do. So please let everything you do be done in love, because at the end of the day, that is truly what makes the world go round. Thank y'all so much once again, and we'll catch you next week.